Hello everyone, I'm Ellen McCloskey and this is my Module 10 case study. Summarizing the case, the principal was not sure about the newly created PTA who had disbanded from the national organization. The principal felt as though it was once an extremely supportive group that promoted the well-being and success of every student and adult, but was questioning the purpose and motives of the new PTA. This PTA's focus was on parent participation and community involvement, which the principal felt like they did a great job of addressing in the past. The principal felt as if the PTA should be involved in supporting the school program instead of being involved in instruction or curriculum. On Thursday, the principal met in his office with the PTA to discuss the back-to-school picnic. The PTA president and attorney called for change to the traditional back-to-school picnic, citing that the traditional model was confusing and a potential waste of time for parents. Instead, the president felt like the school should host a series of back-to-school meetings in order for parents to figure out what truly is going on in the classrooms. The teachers would be responsible for making individual presentations on their respective evenings, as well as being available for parent-teacher conferences for the rest of the evening. The president was not receptive to questions and continued to express his desire for parents, important stakeholders, to be more involved in the school decision and policy-making processes. The president also stated that the PTA had already met to discuss their plans for change. The principal was confused as to why he was not included in these meetings and had many questions about the PTA's actions. The situation left him feeling like he needed to respond to the PTA without disrupting the educational program of students and staff. Legal or ethical issues. Currently, there are not any legal or ethical issues. The PTA decisions could lead to legal or ethical issues in the future if these were put in place. If there's too many outside people who are not authorized to create policies, make decisions, or design curriculum having input in completing these different tasks, then it jeopardizes the integrity of the current and future success and well-being of each student and adult. Currently, no one's been harmed by these decisions. The PTA decisions could lead to harm. It could potentially have academic harm. It could have social harm. It could challenge the integrity of the curriculum. It could create just building-wide rifts, etc. Is the principal an active member of the PTA? I think that's a large legal question here. Are they someone who has to be a part of this? Was the meeting held without him against the law? Or does that matter? Or does that not matter since they're not affiliated with the national organization anymore and they don't have any sort of national guidelines to follow? So far, there's not been a breach of contract and there were no discriminatory or harassing actions. Synthesize. The recently unaffiliated PTA called a meeting with the principal to discuss their desire for parental involvement in decision and curriculum processes. Citing the necessity of parental involvement in these decisions, the outlined plans for moving forward, and the president of the PTA does not appear to want to enter into a discussion about this level of involvement with the principal. As far as missing facts, the people that are missing in this scenario or that we just don't know much about are the superintendent. We don't know how many diverse families or diverse family members are included on this PTA committee. We don't know how many diverse community members are included on this PTA committee. We don't know how many other diverse partners or other stakeholders are included on this PTA. So the members of the PTA and their roles are fairly unclear. As far as missing information for places, the school and the community information is completely missing, so we know very little about what drives this community, what drives this school, what type of involvement there's been in the past, what this has looked like, what the relationships have been like in the past, and we do not know where the meetings for the PTA generally take place. As far as programming, we don't know what the past PTA regulations have been. We don't know what the current PTA regulations and guidelines are. We don't know what past decision-making policies and teams look like, who's a part of that curriculum and instruction team, who's a part of the decision-making teams. It's just a lot of unanswered questions, and it's important to identify who hasn't been identified in these decision-making processes, because there's often missing information when you go to make decisions, and it's beneficial to look at every item and consider what could be overlooked or to determine if more information is needed before moving forward in the decision-making process. Review and prioritize. The PTA has recently disbanded from the national organization. It's unclear what the previous PTA regulations are. All school information is unclear. It's also unclear where the PTA meetings take place or the principal's needed involvement at these meetings. The principal feels apprehensive about this change. The PTA is targeting parental involvement in decision-making. It's unclear what past decision-making policies are and what people make up this team. And does this team cover all stakeholders? Does it include these diverse people, community members, family members, and just any other diverse partners? The PTA president does not want discussion on this topic. There are future plans laid out by the PTA already. The principal is unsure of the repercussion of these plans. And the principal's unsure of where to go next. And it's really, truly unclear of where the superintendent is at in all of this decision-making that's going on. Developing a plan. As the principal, I would first identify PTA regulations and my involvement in the process. So is my presence required at each PTA meeting? What is the approval process for PTA suggestions? What guideline does the PTA follow, even if they're unaffiliated? Then meet with the superintendent and any other stakeholders. Provide them with the information gleaned from the meeting, seek out their input on the situation, and determine next steps with them. I would next meet with the PTA to establish norms and expectations. I would establish them as a group, and they would all be agreed upon expectations that are visible to all, and they represent all team members. Then I would encourage the PTA to conduct a needs-based assessment in order to gauge the needs of the school and the community before moving forward with these plans for completely overturning the involvement of the PTA. Next, I would encourage the PTA to include diverse people on their team to really take a look at all of their team members and make sure it's a good reflection of the school and the community. And then finally, I would discuss concerns from both sides and develop a plan that encourages the current and future success and well-being of each student and adult. Evaluating. The pros of this plan is that it ensures success and well-being is being addressed. It establishes policies, procedures, and expectations. It involves the participation of diverse people and stakeholders. It communicates the needs of school and community through an assessment. The cons, it does not include an action plan for conflict. It does not specifically outline how the future plan will be developed. And it does not communicate with school and community beyond that needs-based assessment. For the reflection, this plan takes into account the concerns of diverse communities and works to develop a plan that promotes the success and well-being of all students and adults. It identifies the roles and expectations of all involved and determines who should and should not be involved in decision-making. All necessary diverse stakeholders are included in the plan. The PTA is encouraged to create a needs assessment in order to establish the needs of the school and community prior to implementing new plans. This plan does not address response to conflict or have alternate paths if the first plan does not work out. Implementation. So as the principal, I would first identify PTA regulations and my own involvement in the process. I may find that they do not have any regulations and that I do not have to be involved in the process and that they cannot request to be involved in decision making due to being unaffiliated. The PTA may be offended with me verifying their validity and their roles. Then I would meet with the superintendent and any other stakeholders. These would be the people that would need to know my plan for moving forward, and bringing the regulations and my own involvement in the process to the table can lead to a better informed conversation. The superintendent and or stakeholders may request to be involved in the process or may make suggestions to my existing plan. Next, I would meet with the PTA to establish norms and expectations. The PTA might not be receptive to this idea. The president may shut down conversation, much like in the meeting. Then I would encourage the PTA to conduct a needs assessment. The PTA may feel like they already understand the needs of the school and community and that this is unnecessary. They may feel like they alone represent the school and community. Next, I would encourage the PTA to include diverse people on the team. They may feel like they already have a diverse team and it's unnecessary to expand. Finally, I would discuss concerns from both sides and develop a plan that encourages the current and future success and well-being of each student and adult. They may not be willing to develop a plan together that looks at the success and well-being of all. If this plan does not work out, then I would work with the superintendent and or other stakeholders to determine next best steps. I do not think I would need anyone else in this meeting with the PTA until I would get to this point of seeking out Plan B. For statements, this case study correlates to PLO 5, CLO 5.1, 5.2, and 5.3 because it required me to read a case study on a principal needing to make a PTA involvement decision. Then I had to determine the best way to respond to the PTA's desire to be involved in all decision-making. The decision-making process followed all aspects of the standards for this assignment. The plan and responses kept the success and well-being of all adults and students in mind. It promoted engagement and relationship building of diverse groups, and it promoted communication. This assignment was relevant to my current learning because it forced me to slow down the decision-making process and look at the situation through the lens of an aspiring building leader. It provided me with an outline for decision-making and guided my thought process. This assignment will impact what I currently do as an educator because it provided me with a decision-making outline that I can apply to various situations. When I'm faced with tough decisions, I can follow this pattern and hopefully make the best decision possible. This assignment will impact my future as a building principal because much like the benefits it provided me as an educator, it also provides me with a decision-making guide as a building leader. Building leaders are often faced with various decisions that do require time and consideration of various perspectives, and this outline is easily applicable to those scenarios. Additionally, this assignment has made me a better future leader because it asked me to reflect on my decisions and plans, providing me with a process for looking at my own thought process. While keeping these two examples in mind, I will be able to hopefully make the best possible decisions within my district that has everyone's best interests in mind. And these are my references. Thanks for watching.